So I've been using the iPad since my first year of university. Now I'm in my fourth year, and I'm here to give you an honest view of the iPad for students. Something I do want to say before starting off though is that this is definitely not a requirement for university. People have been studying things for many years without the iPad, of course, but as a tool it does make the job of studying and learning things a lot easier. Alright, let's get into it. So I have the 4th generation iPad Air with the 2nd generation Apple Pencil and the keyboard from Apple. So it folds up into this and we can clip it to the side. This makes it real nice and portable. But I definitely recommend the pencil if anything. If you don't want to buy the keyboard, that's fine. It is a bit of a pricey add-on, but I really like the setup here. It's been my go-to for the last 2 years of university, and it's been making university a lot easier. Alright, so here are the pros of having an iPad. Like I said, it's not necessary, but it is a tool, and as a tool it can really help your learning process and your learning journey, making things a lot easier for you. I find the iPad to be an amazing piece of tech, especially for those who are looking to learn a lot of things in a short amount of time. Number one, I guess this is pretty much goes without saying, but it's portable, right? So that means if you're on the go, if you have to be in different places at once and you're not going to be lugging around your desktop monitor, right? The iPad is excellent, it has a lot of capacity, and it can really help you get where you need to go. It's really incredibly versatile, especially if you have the pen and the keyboard. I find that if you want to highlight things, you want to customize things in your own special way, it's perfect to be able to do that with the pen. And if you want things to look a bit more professional, if you're tired of writing, you can type things out with the keyboard. It makes it a lot easier also to navigate different websites and look for different things if you're doing research. So I find this to be an excellent and very versatile tool. I also think that it helps decrease the friction of getting started, especially if you have things that look nice and pretty and like you want to use the iPad. You're going to be more likely to get started on your projects just because you want to be able to see how it works and all this. But independently speaking, it's really fast, and since it's so versatile, it takes away some of the hassle of having to, incorporate different tools to do the same thing that you can all do with the iPad. Like if you want to write, highlight, different things like we've already talked about on the apps, and if you want to just customize things. Before getting the iPad, I always thought that I could just read on the iPad, and I found that it's not an excellent tool for reading unless it's things like textbook. So this is a textbook that I've used. I've actually separated the chapters. I think that's how you downloaded them, with this textbook from the website that the university gives access to. I think it's a lot easier to read this sort of thing and to carry this around instead of like a 500-page textbook that weighs like 20 pounds. So this makes it a lot easier. It lets you access a lot of information quickly. It's basically at your fingertips. And I really like that we can, let's say we want to change up the style of how we're viewing things. We can make it a single page. I like to see it vertically sometimes. I'll zoom in and say, oh wow, what's this? What's that? Let's highlight. We can also add our own sort of like extras to the figures that they have. We could say, what's this probe? And have stems. I usually like to have my pen a little bit smaller. Does it matter? These are just example questions, right? It makes it really easy to be able to interact and like engage a lot more with whatever it is that you have to read. And I don't really write in paper textbooks because you have to give them back or you have to sell them or whatever. So this makes it a lot easier. You can really sort of make it your own and have it help your learning. Another cool thing that you can do is you can open this side pocket and open 2 notes at the same time. I really like to do this more in like a horizontal fashion, just because it's easier to write and to zoom into things and see them. But let's say I think I was going through the notes. So you tap, and then you're able to write on this note, you tap, write on this note. And it's really cool. Another thing that you can do that I like to do sometimes is like, if you just hold, like let's say like this, it'll make it look more appealing, more professional, sort of. You can really customize it. And I think this helps a lot more in learning. Another really nice thing about the iPad is that you can back things up and have a lot of the information stored for however long you want it, essentially. And this isn't always true of paper. Of course you can save it, of course you can store it, but if you spill water on it, usually that's the end of that. It's really difficult to maintain things for a longer period of time, but with the iPad, they're going to be stored pretty much indefinitely. And it's always great when you're taking courses later on to go back to the material that you already engaged with, that you already connected with. Let's say from first year and you're in fourth year, like me right now. It makes it really easy to go back, and oftentimes you'll have the same questions, oftentimes you'll be confused about the same topics, and if you've already explained it to yourself in the past, it can really help to explain it to yourself in the position that you're in. So I really like that about the iPad. So if you've watched any of my videos in the past, you might have seen the dumb phone video, and I'll link it here if you're interested. I essentially switched from an iPhone to a dumb phone, and from that experience, I learned that I really don't like to be distracted, and that it's very important to not multitask and to do one thing at a time. And the difficult thing about the iPad is that it has so many capabilities, which normally you would think that this amount of versatility would be wonderful, and it is, but it can really make it easy to get distracted. So because it's such a powerful machine, you can of course access Netflix, you can stream, you can do things that you would do for fun as opposed to things that you have to be doing. So it's really easy to get distracted on the iPad. That makes it frustrating. Be careful. There are a lot of apps that you can use to try to sort of balance this, but I think I'm going to leave that up to you guys, and if you have any recommendations, please send them my way. So far, I've sort of given up on those apps. I think there was this app called Forest. I do think that's the name, and it was like a Pomodoro app, which I used for quite a bit of time, but I just try to be as intentional with what I'm doing as possible instead. Still trying to balance things, but be careful, be aware of getting too distracted on the iPad. Also, I do think that it's important to say that this isn't such a great sort of device to read books like just for fun, or to read books just because you're interested in those books. I really recommend the Kindle if you're interested in that, and I've made a video comparing the two for reading. If you're interested, I'll link it in the description below, as it goes a bit more in depth into why I think about these things. But I think iPad is great for textbook because you can annotate, and I love that. But if you're just reading a book for fun, I don't find that it gives you the same experience, and it just isn't as nice as it is with the Kindle. Another thing I want to mention is that when I first got the iPad, I really wasn't used to it. I really wasn't used to writing on the iPad, and so I did get a screen protector that sort of simulates paper, because when you write with the Apple Pencil, it sounds like you're hitting like on glass, which isn't a necessarily pleasant feeling. I had a lot of difficulty figuring out a system that worked for me, that was going to help me go back to my notes and review them, and also to continue writing notes during lecture, and also to find a way to remember things the same way. I think there's a big difference between writing on the iPad and writing on paper. I find this an excellent tool. It makes it really easy to keep things organized and also not necessarily lose things as you would if you just had a folder. I will say beware, because it might be a bit disappointing when you first get the iPad not being able to completely use it how you want to. And I think experimenting with different things and figuring out exactly how you want it to be is going to take a little bit of time, but I do think it's worth it. Something that I've tried to do has actually been to approach how I learn more than the tools after getting the iPad. So I think that's been a really nice thing, a plus, a positive thing, if you will, because it's making me look more to optimize how it is that I take in information, how it is that I process things, and it makes me want to learn more about memory and stuff like that, as opposed to, you know, just attributing everything to the tool, because that's definitely not the case. And so because of that, you know, I started looking into spaced repetition and, you know, active recall, and finding ways to pay more attention and engage more so that I'll get the most I can from what it is that I'm trying to learn. And I found that to be really, really helpful. And I urge everybody or anybody that's interested in getting an iPad to also look at this at the same time, because that's something that I kind of struggled with. Like, over time, I was able to develop the system that I preferred, and now I'm figuring out how it is that I learned, as opposed to, you know, attributing it all to the iPad. If you're interested in getting weekly updates from me, sign up for the newsletter. It's free, and I share my reflections for the week, along with links to different podcasts and books generally around the themes of life, health, and exploration. I'll put the link in the description below, and I hope to see you there. Well, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you're interested in seeing more types of videos like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Oh, I didn't reach!
She's a Mona Lisa. Everyone's lining up to see her. She's a Mona Lisa.